Get past the spawn room real quick. Looking at compositions. We got this dive, this Tracer Ashe dive comp that was fairly popular in the Overwatch League a little while ago versus a dive defense with Echo and Soldier. So as Ana versus this dive defense, it's going to be very hard to take space. Dive defenders, especially with a coordinated team, which you would hope to see at a GM level or higher. These spaces are very easy to contest because divers, for example, Winston and Ball, can just sit here, zap you at any of these chokes, and then just walk back into healing range for their Mercy and Zen. Zen's a bit of an awkward pick here, but they're opting for more damage over more healing. They've also got Soldier to help peel for the Zen, which kind of helps. But as Ana, obviously, locations where you can actually make a difference. You can't do too much from here. Your area of influence is really only this alley, maybe on the point, but they're never going to be fighting on point early. And if you try to go this way, like I said, you'll get stuffed by the tanks. If you try to go this way, it's even more dangerous because you're splitting yourself from the team. If you try to go this way, it takes a lot of time to commit. And again, your area of influence is pretty narrow. And again, once you try to move up, it's very easily stuffed. So I'm looking to see how Aiden can use his team to create space for him and how he can solidify himself in a safe position to help extend the fight. Because if they can get in and get a stable positioning for Aiden and his Ashe player, they should be able to slowly roll over this team comp with more damage coming out, more harassment from Tracer, taking their attention away from the front line, more mitigation from D.Va versus Ball Winston, and just more staying potential with Ashe and Ana together. There's more damage, there's more burst, there's more threat to the backline with these double dive tanks. And there's, of course, Echo can also go all in, but if they can survive that initial burst, I expect these to do a lot of work in the mid-fight, and hopefully Aiden's tanks here can make that happen. Oh, it's a bit loud, isn't it? Let's turn this down to 30.
Oh, hey, fuck you, Tickety.
Hey, thank you for the follow. So yeah, he's walking up main, not many other options like I said. This is going to help him have an area of influence on these tanks to push the initial Winston or Ball or whoever's holding close a little bit further back, holding this area, and then for the second jump, hopefully he'll be able to walk up main without coming under much fire. Nice sleep on the Ball. Nice nade on the Ball too as he goes for the Mega. And he does go down, but your Winston's traded out, unfortunately. And with Res coming through, this is a lost fight already. Okay, Res is coming both ways, but now your momentum's kinda... Okay, we're stabilizing. It was a bit scary there. If blue team had pushed in more aggressively there before or during your Mercy's Res, you probably would have lost this fight. It would have given space for their Soldier to just run up here and just fire down for free. Echo was doing a ton of damage already too. But luckily, blue team's playing a little bit too slow, and we stabilize here. We've got Nano. Using Nano in this instance, I think, really aggressively. I'm assuming this was communicated. Hey, what's up, El Dapo? I'm doing good. How are you? Nano in this instance, being the fastest ultimate up, similar to Coalescence in like a rush comp, is very good for just stealing tempo away from the blue team here. So normally, the blue team would have a ton of stable damage from these three members, but because we have this burst ultimate, we can take initiative versus a team that typically is faster and more aggressive. So even though these heroes are more aggressive, the resource of Nano, used in a coordinated way on this Winston as he's ready to go in, for example, as Tracer and D.Va are ready to follow up, can be extremely beneficial. So let's see if we get value out of this. Unfortunately, it seemed like it was a bit eager, so let's look at this from a third-person POV. Let's look at right when the Nano comes out. So already, first thing I saw there, Bubble's just expiring. That means it's coming up in a few seconds, 10 seconds still on Bubble. And D.Va just used her boosters. The Nano coming out now. Okay, wait, after he's jumped. Okay, I thought it was coming out sooner. So again, no Bubble right now. No jump for another 3 seconds. D.Va has boosters because D.Va's got crazy fast boosters, but Winston immediately isn't able to take initiative as quickly as we'd like him to with his nano boost. Ideally, the first like half to 1.5 seconds of your nano is when you're going to be finding value. Dagger goes for any character you use it on. It goes for nanoing Blade. Like the first dash slash is the most important because if you don't get that reset, that ult's usually dead in the water. Nanoing Winston, he needs to have jump available. He needs to have bubble if he needs to outplay something like sleep. Luckily, there's nothing that can really burn him down. There's no sleep, there's no nades, there's no CC at all really other than boops that he needs to worry about. So bubble's not a huge issue here, but the fact that he doesn't have jump for 3 seconds means this nano's going to be largely wasted. This means they have time, the blue team has time to see this, react to it individually, and then communicate it and react to it as a team. So not only are these people in the front not going to be pressured because Winston's not looking to pressure these tanks in the first place, but they've got time to communicate to the rest of their team. The rest of their team has time to react. Their Zen, most notably, has time to react, and we're going to see him falling back here. The jump finally comes through, but at that point it's not enough. So, like I said, the nano play is good, but what you're looking for an aggressive nano play, especially in neutral, is being able to take, oh man, look at these slow-mo legs from D.Va, is looking to take immediate advantage with it. Any kind of bursty ultimate like that, you want to take an immediate advantage and then make it so that if you're not getting kills, you're at least setting yourself up for the best extended fight possible. That usually means taking a lot of space, being able to, as Ashe and Ana, either using nano to get your time to solidify this ground up here while forcing the tanks back so that you're not pressured, or if you're forced at main like Aiden is right now, being able to walk up to the point, take this angle, use this space relatively safely while Ashe and tanks can control this high ground. The good thing that's happened here is that the Zen and the Soldier have given up this space, which honestly is probably as good as you can hope for with a dry nano. But now the problem is Winston's trying to make this play work, and he's overextending a bit. We get the kill on Zen, but we're also not in a great spot to continue aggression off this because Ball's still disrupting. And basically both teams are fighting their way back towards the point. Defender's advantage will naturally favor blue team. The fact that red has to touch the point while stabilizing at the same time, that blue can just take their time, clean up these kills, and then bring themselves back onto point, maybe giving up a tick in the process, means this fight's going to be probably blue favored. It's a nice sleep on the ball, but D.Va's here to wake him up. And yeah. So again, biggest thing for you as the Ana player here, Aiden, yes, nanoing aggressive there was a great call, but unfortunately, not everything is within your control. So I'd like to see better coordination between you and not only your nano target, but with your entire team to be dictating when the tempo starts. Even if you don't wait for a response, if you just communicate, it's like, hey, go nano Winston in 3, 2, 1, that's better than nothing. So again, I can't hear communication. I don't know what's going on in this game exactly. I'm not the Winston player. I don't know what's going through his head. But in order to get the most value out of your nano, unfortunately, you need to be coordinating with the aggressive timing of the rest of your team. It's very obvious when Genji wants to blade aggressively and he can dash up and blade and stuff like that. It's a little bit less obvious when you're nanoing a Winston, especially in these neutral situations when they're already using cooldowns, trying to keep and maintain space on their own. So yeah, biggest thing is just making sure you're lining up that with the proper aggressive window of your entire team. I like the shots on the Echo. Again, I'd like to see your team sort of taking a step back when you need to reset here. I like that we're fighting for this space now, but again, it's going to be very hard if they pressure properly. And there's, yeah. So when you're, like I mentioned before, I'm going to fast forward a bit here. The moment you step out this corridor, unless you're making a play to burst out of here, maybe a nano play if you had it, for example, or a primal play, or a D.Va bomb play, or tracers going aggressive on the backline at the same time, unless you're doing something to take attention away from this space, you are not safe to walk out of this door. You should be the last one walking out. You and I should be the last ones walking out. And then even when you are coming out, you need to make sure you're monitoring stuff like Ball's cooldowns and positioning and Winston's cooldowns and positioning to make sure that the moment you are committing your position to the fight, the moment you step out of this door and you say goodbye to trying to play defensively and you're instead playing aggressively, healing deep teammates, going for aggressive nades, sleeps, whatever it is. The moment you make that decision, you know that there's nothing that can threaten you. That doesn't mean always that there's like 0 cooldowns or these people are all completely dead, but it means that they're focused on something else. It means you have the resources to deal with it. Like, for example, if Ashe has Coach Gun and you only have to worry about Winston, you can probably step out pretty safely. If you have Sleep and you only need to worry about Ball, you can probably step out pretty safely. But from what I saw, let's just watch it in third person again. It seems to me like you step out fairly early here. Again, your Winston's jumping out, but still, and you're making a Diva Bomb play deep, but you haven't dealt with this, number one, with this soldier who's spamming this choke. You haven't dealt with the Ball. Do we know where Winston is right now? Winston's coming back from spawn, I guess? But yeah, the combination of this slam and the tack visor leaves you way too overextended. Compare this to, again, if your tanks are making this aggressive play, wait for them to get to like land and for the Diva Bomb to blow up, then take a step out. That's when your tanks are going to be most vulnerable, like after they've committed their initial cooldowns. So wait for them to commit that, to turn this into the fight zone, the area of attention. Then you come out when you hopefully have less attention on you. The soldier and Zen are probably still going to be looking at you, but they won't have the Ball slam, they won't have the Echo aggression to deal with it. They'll most likely be forced to peel back for the tanks, otherwise your tanks are going to be getting a ton of value. So again, just minor coordination thing with the rest of your team, but this positioning was just way too aggressive. As an individual here, you need to wait for your excuse to come through a choke. You can't just assume that space is yours to take. It's good to go for aggressive plays, but you still need to be patient. Yeah, this right here. If you had stayed like where Ashe is right now, you might have had a chance of living, but again, even Ashe gets slammed up, and one of you is almost guaranteed dead, if not both of you. So yeah, if you hear your team going for these aggressive dive calls, going for the aggressive deep dive, deep bomb, whatever it is good to try and keep up with them, but still understand the limitations of your character and your kit, as well as the aggressive nature of the enemy's team here.
I've come back from worse.
So yeah, again, very hard to take space here as Ana, just in general. So you need to make the most out of every tiny little thing, whether that's a small resource advantage in your front line, whether that's enough attention on your tank line, whether that's a sleep on a Ball when he goes aggressive on you or something like this. So this was actually like unintentionally, because you were still like coming back from spawn. This is a good example of what needed to happen last fight. So the commitment just happened, and look where you are. Look where you and Ashe are, completely safe. The commitment with the mines, with Echo using shift. Not exactly sure what Soldier's doing during this time. He's kind of just doing solid defensive pressure from back here still. But now Primal's been committed, and they've used something to deal with Primal. They've used these mines to try and stop you, and you can deal with these mines a lot easier than you can deal with a slam commit, followed by Echo, followed by Soldier. So this fight, you should have a ton more space to work with. And granted, it's a little unintentional because you're still coming back from spawn, but this is the way you should be thinking going into this fight, knowing how vulnerable you are as a character and how hotly contested this space will be. Ooh, almost gets the kill on the Echo. Nice, hopefully we can kill this Ball. Perfect. And now you've survived the initial aggression, and now you have a much better comp for snowballing this point than your opponent does, because their whole thing was the initial burst. Their whole thing is getting in with a slam, getting in with boosted, potentially Echo or Soldier, getting in with both tanks committing hard, with not a lot of mitigation, and guaranteeing an advantage off of that. The fact that they got no advantage because, one, your Winston was doing good, making space on the other side of the map, and he had Primal to keep himself safe. And two, you weren't there to get punished at the moment that they aggressed. So from this point on, you should have full tempo, unless they come back with some crazy outplay. Like, even if these members were all still alive, they've used all their cooldowns, which is why they died for the most part. But also, even if they were alive, like I was saying, they would be at a strong resource disadvantage, and your positioning would put you in a great spot to snowball this point and really close out point one of Numbani here. The best thing you can do here is not do anything crazy to get yourself punished. This is good play right here. Acknowledging the Soldier, using nade when you needed to, Valk's popped, but that's not the biggest ultimate, so that's fine. Taking those shots is fine. I think a little bit unnecessary unless like your Tracer or your Winston was also going aggressive at this time. Realistically, you're not going to get those kills. But also realistically, you weren't in danger of dying, so it's fine to take those shots. Right now, this is like the great time to start taking pot shots. You've got point pressure. Blue team feels pressured to move forward. You've got stable positioning that you're not threatened by, and both your Winston and your Tracer are in a position to potentially go aggressive if you do hit good shots. Alright, just closing out the point and looking to potentially snowball. Your Winston's going pretty aggressive, eh? So it looks like they're trying to come out here aggressive. Where's their soldier tac visor from? This is an interesting tac visor. So for whatever reason, it seems like they, as the blue team, thought you were pushing past this corner. Let's go to red. Thought you guys were attacking past this corner, and then we're looking to counter aggress with these ultimates with duplicate with tac visor. Realistically, though, you guys are not in a position to be punished. Hopefully, you should be able to kite this out, especially since Winston's already committed. I guess there's a second Winston coming in, though, so maybe not. All you need to do here is stabilize and then look to re-aggress yourself. And Nano is a perfect, probably one of the best in the game, one of the best tools in the game for flipping tempo. What I mean by flipping tempo is, you can see right now, blue team's going aggressive. Bob's here to stabilize and deny follow from their backline, so you're already going to be in a great position to not only punish these members, but go aggressive yourselves afterwards. If they decide to overcommit and stay a little bit too long in the fight, stuff like Nano to completely decimate their backline once you decide to go aggressive yourself, as well as potentially save low HP members like your Ashe or your Mercy or your Winston, if they're overcommitting to them, can be good. But yeah, this should put you guys in a really great position. Nano on the Diva to stabilize the aggression, and yeah, complete punish. Ooh, almost lived. So, slight overstep, very, very small. Here, let's just rewatch it. So this is when blue team's going aggressive. You stabilize with the Nano. Right here, I think you either need to commit to staying in this position or getting into this room. By sort of arcing wide, you let yourself be isolated by the ball here. I guess you didn't really arc wide, he booped you in. But this is exactly why I think staying by the wall, it would have been potentially one of your best bets, or committing earlier to getting to within your team, because the enemy team does not want to fight here, so that's where you want to put yourself. But if you stay here, hopefully you can avoid this boop. He moves you like a slightly back, slightly forward before he boops you in completely, so maybe just hugging this wall and anticipating that, giving ball the least amount of approach angles as possible. So he's good, and he basically just solos you out here. So potentially avoidable, but not a big deal. Your team's already stabilizing, and the res is still available, so. Yeah, no DPS boss today, I'm sorry. We'll get to them, though. Normally, I would say it's typically beneficial for Ana players to be the one taking space instead of pushing cart. But realistically here, I don't think there's many people better than you to do it. Tracer, as well as both tanks, want to. Maybe Diva could be pushing cart while you position up here with Ashe. That's debatable, depending on how aggressive your team wants to go. But it's very important for this space to be readily contested by your tanks. Your Ashe has really great sightlines onto the cap point. Basically, you want to force them into a position where if they come out here, they're going to get stuffed and their backline's not going to find any value. And if they come out here, their backline's going to be exposed and can be aggressed on. So that's what your tanks are thinking. So you as support, yes, it'd be nice if you could get up here, but realistically, I think Mercy's pocketing of the Ashe is more important to get more forward pressure from your Ashe, as well as Diva being ready to go aggressive given how far the cart is. If the cart was maybe like back here, a little bit closer to the point, then absolutely, or even just like if the cart was just at this bus around the corner, then I would say probably Diva should be on cart, you should be taking high ground. But in this position, given the range and given how aggressive your tanks want to position, it makes sense for D.Va to be up there. Just something to think about from these situations. Even though it doesn't really apply here, something to look out for as the Ana player. Thanks, brother. And yeah, you're perfectly survivable versus a solo ball. Once your team, hopefully your team comes back and gives you a little bit of a help. Sleeps have been on point. I'm glad you didn't commit sleep to that ball that was just trying to roll away. He was already a non-threat. Saving it for that Winston was perfect. In these extended fights, while it is your job in the pre-fight to sort of escort the card as far as you can, once the card is like this close to the fight zone, this is basically all the same fight zone. So this is where you want to get off the cart and then start using your range either from here or start repositioning to get onto the high ground so that you can focus on the fight zone without being in it. But also once the fight's like sort of already started, your team took some advantages, got some picks up front, and you're still getting pressured by this ball. The best thing you can do to snowball a winning fight is just live, especially as someone with Ana who has so much pressure in an extended fight, so much healing, so hard to get out of position, very strong ultimate to turn fights if they start re-aggressing, stuff like that. Very important that, one, not only you stay alive, but you stay active and influential over this fight. So like I said, the cart's basically already in this fight zone. Hey, thanks for the sub, man. Appreciate you. This cart's basically already in the fight zone, so the fact that you're pushed up here is needlessly aggressive in my opinion. If they had anyone, okay, so they do have this soldier. Oh, more a host. Thank you. I've never heard that voice line on my stream yet. I forgot I set that up. You were going aggressive into the soldier, but I would argue that's not really your job. The fact that you have your D.Va here to close out this kill, it's nice that you landed the nade on him, of course, but I don't think there's a need for you to like ever cross this line to push into this fight, unless like the fight's like occurring like all the way over here, like it's 5v6 over here and your team is fully stuffing them, there's no other threats to worry about, then you can walk up. But looking at this team comp, there's so many threats that can just pop up. Even Zen, honestly, if he wasn't dead this fight, that could just pop up and solo you out of this fight. And solo, when I say solo, I don't mean like necessarily kill you, but take you out of the fight, which can then lead to an advantage of theirs if you can't get your healing up and all that. What's up, Reese? Welcome. Thank you for the host. So yeah, in this situation, yes, staying on the cart initially to escort it was good, but once it reaches this point, you need to be looking to either reposition or just play for the fight that's already happening. And like I said, your team's already winning this fight for you. You don't need to be the one making plays right now. You should be looking to stay stable and just make sure your team gets through it nice and easily rather than make aggressive plays. Nice little sleep there. That was like between the mines over the cart. That was cute. Oh no, Ashe. Oh no, they're turning it. So both you and Ashe, I would argue, had poor positioning this fight. Number one, because you got split from each other, you weren't able to heal the Ashe when she got knocked into here, for example. But also number two, because you're both way too aggressive. For what your characters can do at range, there's no reason to be touching the cart in melee range of this ball. Make him work to dislodge you. Don't let him throw mines on cart and then that throws you off. Make him work for it. But yeah, I really think just better positioning between both you and Ashe could have kept Ashe and Mercy both alive, could have gotten you to a quick nano to stabilize this fight even further, and then would have given your tanks more time to regroup and come back to you. Going into this next fight, there's a bit of a danger here, so look at the space your team's fighting for and look at where you're approaching from. Normally, this is like good positioning in like a standard environment. If you're going like into a dry fight, if you're going into like a pure neutral where like the defending team is like holding here with soldier or whatever, you want to play bus, you want to play axiom, you want to play these angles, you want to play slow, wait for your dive cooldowns, and then go aggressive, step up with your team. Given that your team's already fighting for space and already disrupting potential enemy backline members right now, though, I think you need to be pathing towards them. I think you should be fighting to gain this position because, like I said, the fight's kind of already started. And if we... Hey, thank you for the follow. If we talk about looking back at what we said about first fight, when you burst out of this corner, it should be off of the back of your tanks taking space and turning this into the fight zone so that attention is off you coming out of this door. That's already happening right now at the start of this fight. Like the moment you come back from spawn, they've already turned this into the fight zone. So you should have space to walk up here, get out this doorway uncontested. Ball will already be committing somewhere else. They've got Zarya now. They got no more Winston to go on you solo. They have Echo, who's already ulting during this mid fight. So I think it's possible. Again, without you here in chat, it's hard to ask you questions, but it's possible you thought the fight was going faster than this and you needed to be here for clutch healing. But I would argue it's more up to your team to wait for you before overcommitting than it is for you to be able to catch up when they decide to commit. So the fact that this is already like somewhat contested space, you should be looking to rejoin rather than take this aggressive angle. Because one, that's going to keep you safest, and it's going to help your team stabilize and go aggressive faster and take that space for yourself rather than be forced to start on the ground and then coordinate something to take it. Ooh, just missed on the Mercy. Not sure if that would have killed. It seems like she got a healing dart. So this is the situation we're scared of. Granted, the ball is dead, but imagine you being here, your Ashe being here, and your tanks looking to go aggressive here all at the same time. That's just a playground for ball to come get you in the backline to isolate you. If not you, then Ashe. And there's just... it's a much safer bet for you and Ashe to be positioned together, even if both of you are down here, but because Ashe started this fight with the team, it's up to you to catch up to her. If this Winston didn't peel for you, if Ball didn't die when he did, this would be a very dangerous setup. But luckily, it looks like you might be able to snowball this advantage, killing this Echo and then rolling through. I got time to kill, so out of curiosity, would you prefer a code to a Twitch VOD with timestamps for comms or both? Because I could do both. Honestly, it's up to you. I typically only end up looking at one when I am given both. Twitch VOD is great for like individual mechanics and stuff, as well as looking at communication, especially if you're playing in like a team environment, for example, or like with a duo even. Replay code, obviously I can look more at map stuff and positioning stuff like this, look at how you're interacting with your team's cooldowns and stuff like that, but I can work with either one. But like I said, it's very awkward to try and jump between both at the same time, so I typically only look at one, and if given both, I'd probably look at the Twitch VOD. So it's your call, whichever you want. If you want more macro positioning stuff and like team synergy stuff, like between cooldowns and compositions and stuff like that, give me the replay code. If you want more individual focused stuff, focused on purely mechanics, purely your communication, the way you're playing based on what you're seeing, the Twitch VOD's great. But yeah, like I said, oh no, not the dynamite. Okay, we're good. So yeah, luckily your Winston was there to peel, as well as Bob was there to aggress. If blue team managed to make a coordinated aggressive effort here, this positioning would have gotten one of you killed, either you or the Ashe. But like I said, Winston came back to peel, you got the kill on the ball, we had Bob to go aggressive and stabilize, but could have gone wrong because of that slight mispositioning. Looking to go really aggressive here. Again, this ball is ruining your day. The best way to snowball an advantage, especially versus a dive team, versus dive tanks, I should say, in particular, because they've got so much potential to turn momentum and isolate people, especially people like Ana. The best way that you can snowball this fight is to get into a stable positioning, unless you're going for like some clutch play where you get like a big anti-nade because you have the information about where the enemy team is, where your threats are, and you know you can make this play and make it work. The easiest way in solo queue is to stabilize your team as the healer, get yourself in a safe position to make it awkward for people like Ball to try and get on you, as well as make it easier to punish anyone that does with sleep darts and stuff like that. I'm talking about like using choke points, even on the low ground if you can, but the high grounds are great as well. Playing with your team so you can cover aggression on your Ashe, on your Mercy, anyone like that, and really coordinate aggression because you'll have a better view of what's going on. You'll be able to focus the same targets your team's focusing down versus what you playing here. You were trying to focus down this Echo when realistically your team was focusing on this Zarya. I think that's what happened, but I think you get my idea. It's too easy to get split. It's too easy to get tunnel visioned. Not just you, but like everyone. So anything you can do to help that by playing together, playing safe angles, playing stabilization instead of aggression, are all great snowballing tools as Ana. Now, if you were someone like Tracer, of course I'd be telling you to go aggressive right now. Of course I'd be telling you to completely disrupt their backline because you don't want them to have a chance of gaining their footing back. As Tracer, you're not going to be worrying about the ball, stuff like that. But as Ana, someone with low mobility and where positioning is key, you need to be thinking about that in these mid fights. And I can tell, like, your mechanics are good. You're hitting your shots really effectively. I think you've hit every single sleep dart you've thrown out. But in general, what I'm seeing is a lot of aggression that's not necessarily unwarranted, but it's kind of timed weird with the rest of your team, where you're losing tempo because your team is trying to go aggressive at the same time, but somewhere else. But yeah, this was good. Too much of an advantage for them to retake that anyway. Similar situation to second point. Makes sense for you to be on cart for this beginning bit. Once the cart gets around here, you'll need to be thinking about your positioning for that sort of last fight zone. But up to this point, makes sense for you to have you on cart. Again, it looked like a really awkward nano between you and Winston. I'm gonna chalk this up to communication error. It looks like he's soft diving here just to secure this corner. You see him jumping, assume he has a dive target, and you nano him. These 0.5 to 1.5 seconds, the very first ones of your ultimate, as I would say, with most ultimates that include like an extended period of time, stuff like, I don't know, like Tac Visor, stuff like Graviton Surge, stuff like Shatter. The very first split seconds of it are the most important. This nano is doing nothing for the majority of the duration, it seems like. And you could argue, I guess, that like, sure, he helped finish this kill on Zarya, but this was not thanks to Nano. This was thanks to over-aggressive positioning from them as defenders, as well as really good coordination from your Tracer to finish these, to get the, number one, get the pulse bomb, but also just keep up the aggression and allow this space. This Nano effectively did nothing during this fight. Maybe it gave Winston some extra confidence, but other than that, it's not really what you want Nano for. So again, like I said, now that the cart's around here, in all likelihood, it's going to be an overtime fight on point, but there are still threats to you. There's still a ball, there's still an Echo that can flank and get on top of you very easily. There's still the potential of them running around a soldier or swapping to something like a Tracer or a Doomfist or a Genji or a Sombra and getting behind on a flank. So both you and Ashe need to be thinking about positioning. Obviously, you don't have time to get up here. You probably, if anything, want to play around this side, maybe like on these ridges, to give yourself, one, harder angles for ball to get on top of you, but also just better positioning in general for having high ground, harder to hit, harder to go on due to like just having the high ground natively, as well as playing together. That's the biggest thing I wanted to say, is both you and Ashe should be looking to cover for each other. You saying by Ashe gives you benefit of her coach gun to push back tanks or flankers that try to go aggressive in you, and obviously you can nade both of yourselves instead of just yourself if you get focused down. You can land sleeps that benefit both of you, and you can focus the same targets together. If someone's going aggressive, if someone's going on a flank, you can both look to deal with them and then cover yourself with healing and have more damage instead of just one of you taking down one by one. What I don't want to see is you guys sticking with the payload by the time it's like getting up here. Hopefully we're using this range. So this is exactly what I didn't want. Luckily, it's not you doing it, so I good for you. But yeah, there's no reason for Ashe to be the one pushing card here. It just doesn't make sense to me. You want to be using a range, and yes, you're trying to get the payload in, but realistically, they were going to be able to touch. It's fine to instead look to choke them out, stuff them at the chokes. Maybe Ashe could position somewhere up here if she wants to go aggressive, but down here is way too exposed. There's nowhere to deal with the soldier. Yes, maybe D.Va could have defense matrix, maybe Winston could have came back, but this was so avoidable. And this is the type of positioning I sort of saw from you on second point, just something to keep in mind. And again, you need to be thinking about the extended fight, not just about what's happening in front of you at that time. A bug just landed on my microphone. Get out of here. So again, positioning maybe somewhere up here would give you a heads up to the initial peek from that soldier, give you a very clear kite route down to back here, and still have you in a good position to stay in the fight for the extended phase. If you want to go aggressive, if your team's trying to ignore the soldier, you can then keep up with your team by going up here. If your team is being forced back and you need to turtle, you can play inside here, or just play this corner and have your tanks come back to protect this line of sight here. This is not bad, but it's basically giving you limited options to get back into the fight. You kite back this way, you're forced to go back in this way. You could make the argument that you could go this way, but it seems your team's focusing more on the right side, notably your tanks. So that's where I'd like to see you leaning towards, I guess. But given the situation, you played this fine. Oof. But are we gonna cap? I don't know. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna cap. With both you and Ash down, again, you lose a lot of that stability. You forgot to put a timestamp? Just send me a DM on Discord or something with an updated link, or just resubmit it if you want. I'll figure it out once I take a look at them. A little bit dangerous there, but not punished. I'm glad you didn't stick it out for the third shot. Yeah, unfortunately, there's only 20 seconds left, so you guys are kind of forced to just run it down main. Your team's sort of forced to ignore the ball and opting for forward pressure instead. Not a whole lot you can do about this. I think you're handling this fairly well. I would have liked to see your tanks wait until you were at least ready to like make this cross before going in, and maybe you could have told them that as the Ana player, like make them think about your positioning. But overall, there's not a whole lot you can do about this kind of play from the ball as an individual. And then they've got the ults to deal with there. Yeah. So not much to be done from this position, given the time bank, given the ult economy, and given how aggressive your tanks played that. In a perfect world, what we could have seen, like right here, before this bubble is committed, there's some communication from your team about everyone being around here. Bubble is committed to help you cross and get a better positioning and better angles towards the point. Wherever Monkey and D.Va are jumping, it's followed up by strong healing and strong angles from Ashe. And then ideally, when they reaggress, like when they do commit these mines, hopefully it doesn't split you and Ashe up. You're able to kite this way, stabilize, and then reaggress after potentially either building probably nothing. I guess the soonest also would be yours and Primal, but realistically they're not going to be built this fight unless it lasts another minute. So yeah, biggest thing here is just needed some space from your tanks in order to make this work, but because they were going aggressive early, you're just opened up by the ball, as we're about to see. And honestly, ball doesn't even do that much work, but it's enough to deny your healing on your tanks, and that means it's enough to separate you from your Ashe, and it's enough to get your Winston and D.Va killed. So again, small thing, and the most you could have done as an individual in those situations is just ask for a slower push, realistically, so that you can use the resources your tanks are committing, not just them. But yeah, not bad attack overall. Like I said, the biggest thing I'm seeing right now is a sort of aggressive, an unwarranted aggressive playstyle. Thank you for the follow, Dapper Wolf. Welcome, welcome. So yeah, a bit of an unnecessary aggressive playstyle in some of these situations. Like I mentioned, coming out this door a bit too early, playing on these ground angles too aggressively, playing through flanks too aggressively that isn't coordinated with your team's aggression, can lead to you being separated, especially versus dive heroes, but can also lead to, if you're not the person of focus, it can lead to other members of your team being focused down and you not being able to help them because you're focusing on something else at the same time. So always things to keep in mind. Defensively, you should have a lot more space to work with, just the nature of defense, but you still need to be thinking about where the fights are going to be happening and when you need to change position in the mid-fight to give yourself the best extended fight possible. So let's take a look. Similar comps, both Echo on both sides, which you don't see too often, honestly. It's a bit awkward to have your Zarya here if they decide to push out here, it's going to be your Winston focusing that solo. Obviously, the bubble and Echo can follow up. But if they were to 6-man rush your Winston, for example, there's nothing you'd be able to do. Whereas if Zarya was playing here, she could use both bubbles to slow them down, give you time to land a nade, give Echo time to land a sticky bomb, and stuff like that. But this defensive positioning allows better cover for you, obviously, if they decide to hard dive. And Winston can then jump in and counter dive to help. So, interesting, and I would say probably suboptimal, but not bad. This ball player is so aggressive. Nice pressure from your Winston, and then nice focus on the ball there. I'm curious why. I guess Echo's dueling at the same time. Okay, so that makes sense. But yeah, seeing this isolated ball as the defenders is a lot easier to work with than seeing an isolated ball when you're on attack and you're trying to take space. Should I assume that you won't be able to get to mine today? Yeah, I don't really have a stream schedule yet. I'm working on it, but there is a bit of a queue. So I will get to yours when I get to it. I'm not sure when that will be. But if you join my Discord, I will tag you when I am going live with your VOD for future reference. Oh, unnecessary aggression from your Winston. Again, like, it's clear to me now that there's just no communication between your Winston and the rest of your team about going aggressive here, because this aggression was unwarranted. They have this space. There's no reason to push into it without jump, without bubble like he did. As well as if he decides to go aggressive here, it needs to be coordinated with your Zarya, your Tracer, and you, most notably, so that you can heal, go for aggressive nades. This was potential to go aggressive, but with only Winston going aggressive and these 3 members, yourself included, not making that play, it just doesn't make sense. If he was communicating that he wants to go aggressive here, I would have liked to see you step up, look for an aggressive nade yourself, or just pocket the Winston. As long as you're not like dropping down and exposing yourself, this type of aggression is fine, especially with Zarya holding your hand up here. But yeah, just a little bit of disconnect between your front line and your back line there. Ideally would have liked to see you save nade in that situation. He almost gets you. So something that definitely goes underappreciated here, from what I saw from attack and also this situation right now, is your positioning around the rest of your team in these situations where you need to give up space. So as we saw on second point attack, when you and Ashe got disconnected, here we're seeing first point defense, you and Zen getting disconnected. And Zarya's opting to favor Zen's position because obviously he's under a lot more pressure with Genji going on him. But even though you didn't die, and Zen didn't die thanks to the Zarya here, you're in a very bad position to continue this fight. Number one, it's going to be much easier to focus down Zen if Genji didn't die, for example, or if Ball just decides to go up aggressive now. And number two, it's going to be much easier to focus you, and it's going to be much harder for you to get meaningful heal angles. You're now restricted to this POV unless you push around this corner or take like a very long out-of-fight route. But realistically, you are now limiting your team to fighting in this zone, whereas before, you had full range of motion completely around the point on both high grounds, all around, controlling all the flank routes, controlling everything on point. But now we're stuck in this little box here. And that's number one could have been avoided if you had number one saved your nade after getting a little bit of poke. Let the Zen heal you, play a little bit safer with your Zen, play a bit safer of an angle when you're between fights and you need some healing. If you had nade, for example, for that slam, you probably would have been able to stay up here. But also talk to your Zen, talk to your Zarya about where you're going to kite to between fights. If you're worried about getting dove up here, talk to your team about kiting down to main and then pushing back in with Nano if you're about to build it. Talk to your team about dropping down and then pushing back in with Bubbles or with Winston Jump, because they're going to be at a resource disadvantage by pushing you off. But instead what's happening is they put themselves at a resource disadvantage by pushing you off and trying to go hard on the Zen. And while you do have a resource advantage, technically, you're not in a coordinated position to use it as a team. It's going to be very hard to coordinate an aggressive push here because of how split you are and because of, like I said, your limited POV. Winston helps you out with a bubble. But yeah, you're still very out of this fight right now. There's too many things to worry about. I'm gonna rewind this and just take a look at how blue messed this up, honestly. Yes, obviously Genji dying was big. And Zen staying alive, of course. So Tracer and Echo are going aggressive themselves and taking a lot of attention. Winston and Zarya managed to focus. So they're just as disconnected as you guys are. Look at this. Look at where their focus is. They're looking at 4 different targets right now. The back line is looking at Tracer and Echo, and they haven't hit a single shot from what I can tell on them. Zarya is focused on playing point and playing against Winston. Echo is hard committing onto the Zen, and Ball is hard committing onto you. Thank you, sir. Have a good one. Thanks for the host again. I will get to your VOD eventually, once I figure out my schedule. But yeah, if blue team, instead of doing this, had either committed to like just one of these 3 targets, either by focusing on stabilizing on point, focusing on annihilating the Zen, or focusing on peeling for their own backline, yes, you'd probably get some trades, but it would still put them in a much better position overall because they would have control of this half of the map, which includes the point, and you guys would only have control of this lane here. So this is kind of like higher level stuff, not really an individual focused feedback thing, but when you have the opportunity as a very important backline member, you should be looking to talk about how you're kiting these fights. Talk about it with your Zen, talk about it with your Ashe that we saw from last round, talk about it with your Zarya player in this instance, talk about where you're going to kite to so that you have a plan going into the fight, and then it's going to make it easier for you to get back into the fight. You don't need to instantly deny their dive. You need to expect it, anticipate it, plan for it, survive it, and then talk about the next step. That's what's more important. It's more important to come back stronger than it is to just never get hit. So yes, this should have been way more punishing, but because of how aggressive your 2 flankers went, and because of how untouched they went as well, because of how well your Zed did at handling the Genji, and then also took a lot of attention from Echo, and because of how isolated their Zarya played, you guys managed to stabilize this. But it was, I would say, unnecessarily dangerous. Oh, this Winston, man. He just needs to talk about where he's going and when. If he wanted to re-aggress there to force them back, he needs more. Nice nade and finish on the Ball. So even though this wasn't coordinated, look how much of a better position this is compared to your last one. Now, you can coordinate an aggressive move together instead of having to have people come from 50 different angles and try to make it work with your limited positioning. Everyone can push into your healing space. Yes, it's going to be hard to dislodge people on the high ground, and yes, I wouldn't say you're in an advantageous position, but you are in a much more stable position. And because you got these trades, you traded out as they were committing aggressive, and you didn't get killed yourself. No one on your team got killed here. You're in a great position to retake this fight. Just by being in LOS of each other. That's all it takes. Probably could have played a little bit faster. Again, mainly because your Winston was dead. Your Zarya doesn't want to be the one walking up, forcing her to use her self-bubble. You didn't have Nano for her to keep her stable. Would have liked to see some sort of aggressive play from your team, though. Maybe a trance, maybe something to give your Winston time to get back into the fight. But it just didn't happen that time. I wouldn't put that on you. That's more just a tempo thing. Bit slow to heal that Zarya. Let's take a look at that. So far, like I said, your mechanics have been on point. Your focus has been good. Your sleep darts have been nutty. Reload comes here. You're focused on your Zen. As soon as the pressure's off your Zen, you need to hit this Zarya, though. One, your Winston should have been there for Zarya sooner to take the E and soak. But two, I think once Ball rolled away from your Zen, and he wasn't in immediate danger, you should be looking at your front line a little bit faster there. Small thing, though. Not a huge deal. Alright, looks like we're getting a full reset. We're swapping onto Sombra to help deal with the ball and the flankers.
Take more than that to keep me out of the fight.
We get a nice early kill. No, we're not taking positioning. We're not taking high ground. This is okay. We got nano. We're going aggressive. We're gonna burst into position. We don't need to start with positioning. Okay. First coordinated nano dive we've seen. Fortunately, he dives in Echo, which isn't the greatest target. Even diving tanks, I think, would be, especially off of a hack like we're seeing right here, would have been huge. But what that nano is going to do, if we take a look at what Winston's doing, it's going to completely deny value from not only the Echo, who was forced to shift back, but the Mercy and the Ano, who are now peeling for each other with Winston in their face. So, best nano we've seen so far. Helps build Primal as well. Now we got a ton of space.
You're going to be okay.
Nice cleanup. Now we're thinking about positioning. Good. Again, oh, the whip shot. A little bit of a disconnect from the rest of your team here. Not sure if there's a communication issue, but your front line's going aggressive, your back line's peeling and looking to force out this ball. Would like to see a lot more communication and attention between these two groups. I don't know if this is your fault. I don't know if this is Zarya's fault for not communicating. I don't know if this is anything, but when it's just like something like solo ball, you should be looking to give him as little attention as possible unless your team is ready to punish him, unless Sombra's there to hack him, unless your tanks are there to isolate him and burn him down, stuff like that. Ideally, you're able to play normally while still being ready for his aggression, but not looking for it to take too much of your time or attention. Ideally, you'd be in a position to follow this grab up right away and go aggressive with these tanks as they're using these cooldowns instead of reacting to them. And yeah, this disconnect gets you killed, gets your Zarya killed, forces your Winston back. Just a very disconnected play overall. All of this could have been avoided by better communication from your front line about the aggression, obviously, but also something you can be trying to be more aware of as an individual, where you're not spending too much time focusing on what the small threat is in your backline, the mosquito in your ear, as it were, instead focusing on the bigger picture in front of you. Like I said, yes, you need to think about Ball and the way he can approach you into this fight, but also you can be thinking about that while still having the majority of your focus elsewhere.
Go. I will be with.
Uh-oh. So we were kind of in this sort of like between positioning. So you were positioned here to start, which was fine, focusing on this fight zone. Then we see we got an advantage. We stabilized after netting that advantage, and we're ready to push even further. Winston's pushing up here, your team's pushing up here. And you and Zen are both caught in this area where it's like, okay, do we follow the team? Do we stay back and anticipate them pushing back into us? Do we take safer positioning this way to follow up this fight zone? This just little indecisiveness is what gets you killed by Diva Bomb. And this is not just Diva Bomb that can catch you off guard. This could have been a Genji Blade. This could have been a Pulse Bomb. This could have been Ball. Any number of things can punish this type of behavior. And the biggest thing is either, number one, faster reaction on your part, either to communication, to positioning that you see from your front line, to health pools of your front line. Once you see they've stabilized, then you start moving up immediately instead of waiting around, waiting for them to play defensively, or communicating yourself about where you want to play and how you're going to set up. If you want to play for this fight zone, you can play slowly, go on this angle. If you want to play for this fight zone, like even more defensively, you can call that and just play further back, say you're not going to get healing up there, don't go too aggressive, stuff like that. Ideally, in this situation, I would say pushing up was absolutely the right call. Let's go back and see when we could have done that. So this was just 20 seconds prior. So right now we're stabilizing and your team looks like they want to push up. Right now, I would be thinking about taking this angle. There's no one that needs immediate healing. You saw Tracer has Orb. She just got hit by a dart. She's about to be full HP. You see your Sombras coming up on EMP, and you see you haven't seen ball on a flank or anything ready to threaten you, so going on this aggressive route, number one, it's very hard to punish this for the enemy ball, but also he's not looking to punish it actively. So right now is when I said you could be looking to push up. It's a bit awkward that your Winston and your Tracer get booped in here, but realistically they're not in any danger, so you shouldn't be worrying about you keeping your position to help them.
Go. I could be you.
From right here, once you see you've stabilized, and once this echo goes down, you could have been looking to push aggressive during this bomb. Like the second bomb comes out, just decide to push forward instead of trying to fall back. Given this, you'll probably assume it's going to explode somewhere around here. So your best bet in this situation would be either to get around this corner or make this mad dash across. Realistically, though, I think the decision needs to be made before this, before even the echo gets killed, based on your team's positioning and their what seemed to be aggressive intent. If nothing else, you can base this off the fact that you had full control of this corner and you had aggressive ults like EMP to use. So you should be looking to go aggressive. Not readily, it was maybe like 80% earlier, but you had this on lock. They were still pushing payload. They haven't even crossed this corner. So you should be thinking about this fight zone instead of this fight zone. And the best way to do that, the safest and consequently more aggressive positioning for this play would have been right here. And this obviously better cover for bomb. If they try to bomb you over here, you just run inside. Better cover from ball. Better healing angles. Better nade angles. All that. But yeah, unfortunate. Hopefully your team can stabilize this. Here, let's go watch. Yeah, they're just continuing the aggression. And again, like I said, if you're not in a position to follow up this aggression, which, like, obviously you're not going to follow up this level of aggression from these DPS players, and you don't need to. They have to understand what your area of influence is as a healer and play around that. People like Tracer and Sombra don't need a ton of active healing. They can recall, they can translocate out when they need to survive this, to warrant this level of aggression. You need to be thinking more about where your Winston and where your Zarya are playing. And like we said, they were playing up here, so you should have had time to move here and cover this aggression if you need to. Coming back from spawn here. Again, need to be thinking about where the next fight's going to happen, where both you and Zen want to be positioned, as well as potentially Zarya. Nice little anti on the ball there.
Go. I keep you here.
In this kind of situation, it's fine to move up to like where the Zen is, look for potentially more spawn kills, look to get these kills, just not you taking the shots to get the kills, maybe 1 or 2 onto Echo, but mainly keeping these members up and healthy so that they can look to find the kills themselves. If Blue, from this situation, given the amount of space you're pressuring, tries to go aggressive on you, likely it won't be more than one member, i.e. Ball, or Genji potentially if he's on a flank somewhere, and both you and Zen together should be able to deal with that. Again, I'm just pointing that out because it looked, again, like you're just a little bit hesitant to try and find that forward pressure. Like right here, you see the ball. Right now, instead of moving up, you're still focusing on stabilizing. Right now, you already have such an advantage and so much forward pressure, you should be moving with this Zen right now.
Go. I keep you here.
Be as aggressive as you can get away with. Alright, now that they've stabilized and you're no longer have your foot on the gas, now both you and Zen need to be thinking about where the fight's going to happen. In all likelihood, since you have EMP, I guess it can happen in one of two places. It can happen here, or if your Sombra's really aggressive, it can happen out here as they're coming towards the cart. Ideally, that gets communicated. If not, you can always look to your Sombra players to see where she's setting up. Let's see where she is right now. She's in spawn, so I would assume this is going to be the fight zone. Like I said, this is probably your best positioning. If you don't have time to take that, you can always try something aggressive over here that gives you better nade angles for you and Zen. But most importantly, talk about where you're going to play and where you're going to kite during this fight. If your EMP isn't successful and you don't immediately win this fight, you're going to need to be kiting out against the ball, against the Genji, against the Echo, against the Diva even. So you need to have that in the back of your mind. Of course, your priority should be on executing your own play first, but you need to put yourself in a position where you're ready to deal with it if it doesn't work out the way you're anticipating. This position here and being split from your Zen does not look like that to me. But we still got a bit of time to work with, so we're backing up. Okay, nice. Okay, it worked out. Blue team took a long time trying to push forward. Bit awkward that your team's trying to continue this aggression. Like I said about any ultimate, honestly, in the entire game, the first 0.5 to 1.5 seconds are the most important. Same goes for EMP and this nano into it as well. You found the initial advantage. Best way you could have snowballed this is just by stabilizing. I think you did a fine job holding your ground here, not trying to push up to help them. Obviously, you kind of couldn't because of the mines. But realistically, your team in this instance needs to stay within your LOS more than you need to catch up with them. So I think you played this fine. Oh, really aggressive grab. Oh, okay, that's a huge nade though. Still need to give up space. Should be fine though. Should be very early primal. Nice waiting for the Matrix. Oh, you're just put in a very awkward spot right now because like both teams are kind of just going back and forth, both with ultimates, like we saw Primal and then now Nano. But also just like with positioning, like your Winston's positioning so aggressively when realistically no one's ready to work with this. Maybe Tracer is, but they're not going to find anything, and this is just going to be a wasted bubble. I guess technically they get the... Nice. We got the nano out from that aggression, but nice trance to stabilize and enable your own aggression here. Yep, playing up here is fine if your team's going to be this aggressive. You can even look for an aggressive ult play here. Alright, we had time to escape this bomb. Good job.
I need healing.
40 seconds left. Yep, your team's putting up a tremendous amount of pressure, so you can just play here all day long.
I could use some healing.
Go. I'll keep you healed.
30 seconds remaining.
Swap onto Hog, which is interesting.
Now.
That's unlucky, but Tracer should get back soon enough to stabilize this. Winston has Primal to live here. You should be focusing on backing up. Oh no, we overlapped Primal and Nano for the same reason, which was to play defensively. So again, communication between yourself and the main tank, very important here. Understanding when he has Primal and when you have Nano. Using those ults together usually doesn't make a lot of sense. You want to use one into the other. Primal followed by Nano to continue to keep up the aggression and depositioning for Winston is good and also helps him build another Primal. Nano to help build Primal and then followed up by Primal for the same reason. Extend the existing aggression and stabilize Winston's forward positioning. But using both at the same time kind of just limits your reach. He's not going to be as aggressive for as long as he could have been. Oh, and now this is what happens when you don't think about kiting in the mid-fight. So we were totally ready to take this aggressive fight. We were ready to follow up the Nano Winston. We were ready to follow up the Primal. We were looking to build Grav and EMP and anything else. But it didn't work the way we thought it would when we're getting ulted by 3 things right now. And because we weren't ready for their level of aggression, we were waiting for our next trigger to go aggressive and they pulled theirs first. And this split is happening now. So undoubtedly, one or both of you, between you and Zen, actually Zen's got trance, so probably just you are going to get isolated and burned down here. Except they don't push up. I guess the sleep on the hog was huge, but I thought for sure that Zarya was gonna come up and beam me down. Oh my goodness, what a pulse bomb. That was madness. You had no right winning that fight, I'm sorry. Let's go back and watch the third person. So right here should have been the absolute turning point. But the Echoes turned around for the Winston. And then Hog getting slapped, of course, was huge, and that bought you enough time to get out. Yeah, I thought you were dead here, absolutely. Zen taking aggro like this was absolutely fine and very beneficial for you guys. If that Winston was on you, for example, you'd just be dead. But the fact that you got aggressed on while having trance was poor target focus by the enemy team, but also very, very good for you guys. Leads you to stable positioning. All right, we got to watch this pulse bomb happen in real time. Oh, it's off of grab. That doesn't count. I thought it was way cooler. But yeah, biggest thing by far from this VOD for you as an auto player is look at your positioning, your proactive position decisions. Think about where you're going to put yourself, not only to start the fight, but how you're going to end up in the mid-fight. Whether that's going aggressive as the attackers and taking space and snowballing with that space by using your position and using other members that can help you solidify the position, like Ashe, like Soldier, any hit scan really, or like tanks like Sigma, like Zarya, who are more limited by range but can stabilize your space with you. And of course, along with your other support player, especially if you're playing something like Zen or Brig, or even to help secure your own positioning. Think about the timing of your team going in and how you can use that, and you're not opening yourself up unnecessarily. You're waiting for resources to be burned before taking space. You're waiting for attention to be elsewhere before taking space, stuff like that. And then defensively, whenever you are holding space, always be talking about where you're going to be starting and where you're going to be moving to. This helps not only you keep a clear plan in your mind, but helps anyone playing around you. In this case, your Zen and your Zarya. Helps them react, helps them play for you, keep you alive and up during the fight, but also helps you stay together so that if you have to give up space for whatever reason, because they're committing enough, for number one, it'll force them to commit more to force you to give up space, but once they do commit all those resources, you'll be in a better position to retake that space, given that you'll be positioned together and hopefully in a much more stable way. So that would be my biggest tip. Everything mechanical-wise seemed fine. You're hitting your shots, you're hitting your sleeps, you're hitting your nades. Ult usage could be better communicated with your team, with people like Winston most notably. It's easy to coordinate ults together like Nano Blade. It's much harder to coordinate more nuanced cooldowns like Winston's jump, like high energy Zarya potentially when she has self bubble and stuff like that. So look to communicate as much as possible to make that ult work for your teammate as much as possible, and just get the most out of it. Because there was a few times this map where I noticed it basically got no value. So yeah, those would be the two biggest things: proactive positioning decisions and communicating ult usage.